Everyone's motivated in different ways. What I want to share with you today is how we define motivation, how we break down those specific traits that tell us, okay, we want to do this today. We can get out the door, go for a run, go for a swim, go for a bike, get our clothes on at 5 o'clock in the morning and get out there. All right, what motivates us to do the things that we do in fitness? So that is what we're going to talk about today. What I'd like you to think about, I would like you to think about the most motivated time that you had. January 1st, a lot of people get that motivation to get out into the gyms. After about 2 weeks, the gyms are now empty. What drives that? What happens there? So there's a theory, motivation theory, that talks about 3 different traits that we're all driven by. One's called power. Power is all about competition. It's all about beating the person next to you. You say, okay, well, I came in 4th last time, I'm going to come in 3rd, I'm going to come in 2nd, I'm going to come in 1st. So when we talk about power, we're talking about competition with each other. Now, power is not necessarily a bad thing. When we're at a practice, and when we're at a group run, when we're in a lane with someone swimming with them, what occurs is that we kind of have this motivation to either keep up with them, not lag behind, or if you're the one leading, to continue on so they don't catch up to you or that they are not going to pass you. And so what we're looking at with motivation for power is that drive to compete. So that's power motivation. Now, not everyone has a lot of power motivation. And some people are even intimidated by power motivation, where competition scares them quite a bit. That's something that can occur and can be trained into. So with all of these 3 traits that we're going to talk about, one being power, each one can grow. They're all exclusive from each other. And so power, because it's based on competition, grows when you compete. So if you're intimidated by racing, and if you're intimidated by getting into a game, the way you grow your motivation for power is by actually competing. Doing that race, doing that game, that's how you grow your power motivation. That's how you put yourself into that environment and say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work at this. I'm going to compete at this. You might feel really intimidated at first, but your power motivation slowly grows. The second motivation is something called achievement motivation. Achievement motivation is all about competing with yourself. It's all about leveling up. All right, your personal bests, your personal records, when we talk about those, that's all about achievement motivation. When we talk about journaling and putting in a journal saying, okay, I did 10 miles this week, or I did 5,000 yards this week. Next week, I want to do 15 miles or 7,000 yards. Then the week after that, I want to do 20 miles or 10,000 yards. That's achievement motivation, that progress of leveling up from one to the next, getting more yardage, getting faster. So being able to say, okay, I did a 17:30 5K. All right, well, next race I want to do a 17:20. That's achievement motivation, especially when it's all about yourself. That's achievement motivation. Achievement motivation, again, can grow. So if achievement motivation doesn't really drive you, the numbers don't really drive you, if you journal it, if you put it down on paper and say, okay, I have 20 miles this week, I want to do 25 the next. The more you do that consistently, the better achievement motivation you're going to have. The same thing with speed. If you say, okay, I can do 2 minutes per 100 swimming, and next week you want to do 155 100, that speed, if you do that consistently and journal it consistently, keep up with it consistently, and put yourself in that environment of trying to achieve and trying to gain your personal best and your personal records and see that leveling up and see that progress, you're going to be more motivated by achievement than you would otherwise. So that is achievement motivation. The third trait is something called affiliation motivation. Affiliation motivation is all about being accountable to one's actions. Now, that might be to a parent. That might be to a coach. That might be to an instructor or a professor. All right, affiliation motivation is all about who you're accountable to. That might be to a friend. It's a lot easier to get up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and get to the gym when you know that someone is there waiting for you, counting on you to be there. And so when we say affiliation motivation, it's all about accountability. Look to someone to be accountable to, whether it is a coach or it is an instructor or it is a friend that you can just say, I'm going to go out and run with you. You're going to get to that spot. You don't want to let them down. That's affiliation motivation. And that's something that we want to work on as well. Team camaraderie. That's all about affiliation motivation. And affiliation motivation can grow just like achievement and power. The more you work in that environment, the more affiliation motivation you're going to have. So the more team camaraderie, the more times that you allow yourself to be accountable to someone, the more affiliation motivation you're going to have towards that person. Those are the three types of motivation. You have power, which is all about competing against other people. You have achievement, which is all about competing against yourself and leveling up. And you have affiliation, which is all about team camaraderie and accountability. We want to be motivated in all three. And so the way we do that, like I said, is all about engaging in one's environment in all those three motivations. That might be power, achievement, or affiliation. The more we do, the more motivated we're going to be. Myself, personally, I am driven mostly by achievement motivation. I do well under numbers. Looking at numbers, analyzing numbers, getting to that next level, that is where most of my drive comes from. And I know this. And so when I'm feeling down, that's what I look towards to motivate me. On the other hand, I still do compete and I enjoy competing and I do get a drive from that and a motivation from that. And the more I engage in that, the more power motivation I get. Same thing with affiliation motivation. I am accountable to be in a class. I'm accountable to be at a certain group run. I am accountable to be at a special event. And so that motivation drives me. And the more I engage with it, the more affiliation motivation I'm going to have. We want to be motivated in all three. The most motivated person in the world is motivated by all three, not just one or another. We need to know what our strength is, and we need to know where our weakness is in terms of motivation. So I want you to analyze what drives you, what motivates you. Is it the drive to compete? Is it the drive to level up? Or is it the drive to not let someone down? Analyze that for yourself. Understand what is the most motivating part that you have. Work on the other two. Engage with the other two, even if you're intimidated. And you'll be more motivated on a day-to-day basis. It takes a long time to develop from one side to the next. It does. It takes a long time, and you have to be patient with it. But at the end of the day, if you engage with it, you'll be able to develop yourself on a day-to-day basis. And that's what we want. So that's a little bit on motivation theory. If you have any questions, answer them in the comments, or I'll answer them in the comments, and share this story.